public hearing, and I'm gonna ask, I've asked Danny Bartlett if he would lead us in prayer before we start, please. Y'all would.
Let's assume an attitude of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this beautiful day. We thank you, Father, for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us here in this county. We pray, Father, that you be with the leaders of the county as they perform their duties, that they look out for the citizens of the county. We pray, Father, that you be with us this evening. You give everybody the wisdom that needed for this opportunity. We pray, Father, you be with those who are presenting, that they can have clear minds to present their ideas in a clear and timely manner. Forgive us of our sins. Be with us always. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll be seated, please. I'm going to do a roll call first on our commission. Mr. Burris.
Present.
Mr. Pope.
Present.
Mr. Lucas. Here. Mr. Barnard.
Present.
And the chair's here. Okay. We have on this agenda item, this subject crossings for closure and reworking. I'm going to read the first part of it here, and then we're going to turn it over to the Department of Transportation and the Railroad. The crossings are the 4 consecutive passive warning devices crossings located along the railroad line adjacent to SR 520 and US 82, which is the Brunswick Highway, southeast of Waycross. East of the Hatcher Point Road crossing, a gate crossing with preemption at adjacent State Route 520 intersection traffic signal. The 4 crossings are identified west to east below. And I'm going to call out the number 637724H crossover and a 637725P Driggers Lane, a 637726 West Woodard Chapel Road, and 637728K Blunt Road. Now these, I'm going to ask the DOT if they would to come up and explain to us. I'm going to let them tell us what they want to do. Y'all come on up.
Good evening. My name is Edlin Regis, and I'm with the Georgia Department of Transportation, and I'm the assistant railroad crossing safety. I'm the assistant program manager for that program, and the Georgia Department of Transportation and the Office of State Utilities, we manage a Section 130 program, which is a federally funded program, where we're looking at every crossing in Georgia. And right now we have about 5,000 railroad crossing, at-grade crossing in Georgia. And our goal is to look at every single crossing in Georgia, look at it for safety measure, where we can do safety projects. And within the program, one of the things that we're looking to do is routinely partner with our local municipalities, which is counties and city. We're looking at ways we're looking for a partnership where we're looking at the crossing to see what we can do to make improvement and improve safety within the municipalities. And that's one of the reasons that we are here today. We look at a corridor here in Waycross, and we want to take a look at it and see what we can do to make some improvement to improve safety. Right now, I have one of our consultants that's part of the program, work for GDOT, and he's going to go to the presentation on what we're trying to do here today.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to speak loud enough where I don't use a microphone, but don't hesitate to say use the microphone if I'm not speaking loud enough. Could we put the presentation up? Okay, there we go. Edlin introduced himself. Again, I'm Dave Beers, Atlas Technical Consultants. Todd Alton, who is the Public Project Manager, that includes Georgia for CSX, is also up here. Edlin talked a little bit about the Section 130 program. He mentioned that there's 5,000 crossings in Georgia. Almost half of them have gates right now, 45%. There's about 1,500 CSX crossings, 1,800 NS crossings, all the rest of the railroads, 1,700 short line crossings in Georgia, about 2,000 private crossings altogether. That bottom table is, doesn't seem to be going on the screen. The bottom table is just the state's motor vehicle crash experience here for the last 40 or so years. So you can see the program's been very successful in terms of reducing crashes and casualties. Back when it first became initiated, there were almost 400 crashes a year in Georgia, 134 personal injuries, 26 fatalities. We use 5-year period and average it over that to kind of smooth out the ups and downs you have year to year. What's happened over the last 10 years or so, though, is that the reduction in crashes is starting to flatline now. We don't seem to be getting as many reduction in crashes as we have been. That last column, 2023, is just a estimate, what we're on track to do for the year based on crashes through August. And that kind of points out the fact I was talking about on why we want to average over 5 years, the ups and downs. It looks like we're trending down in personal injuries, and we are going to have a great year. But really, last year we had about 30 injuries. We're just having a good year. The converse side is we are trending down on fatalities. In Georgia's, we're pretty lucky in terms of have a very low fatality rate. Only about 5% of the crossings in Georgia or crashes have a fatality involved. Nationwide, it's about 10%. A quick safety education moment for people that might not be aware of it. Every crossing's got an ENS sign. That's a blue sign at the crossing. It has a 5-digit number with a letter and a phone number. That's what the chairman had read out the numbers there. If you aren't aware of it, if there's anything at a crossing that needs to be reported, use that number on the sign, and also the 5-digit number to report it to the railroad. They'll know exactly what crossing you're talking about with that number as opposed to giving them a road name. The Federal Railroad Administration has an app that locates crossings for people that would like that. There's also a little bit more in the way of education. There's a block crossing reporting. FRA started this about 3 years ago in response to complaints that the crossings were being blocked for longer periods of time and more often. This is something that anybody can use to report a block crossing. GDOT, we look at it every month, so it helps us to identify which crossings may be blocked. One last little item on safety is Waycross is a pedestrian crash hotspot. Many, many more pedestrian fatalities here than anywhere else in the state. There have been 8 since 2001, and that's 1 out of 9 pedestrian fatalities in the entire state. So The 8 have been about 11% of the pedestrian fatalities, but the population here is only 0.34%. So really there's about a 30% higher per capita chance of a pedestrian being killed here. And part of that may be tied into the block crossings. When a train stops, people, pedestrians in particular, may want to try to rush and get across. With that, I'll kind of go into the meat of the presentation. I expect that we're only going to go about 10 or 15 minutes, and then the idea is to hear from you. What's up on the screen is an aerial photograph of southeast of Waycross. That's Brunswick Highway or 520, kind of cutting diagonally from left to right. There'll be a better map farther on that I think you might be able to identify the crossings better. But on that map, the far left crossing is City Boulevard. That's not part of this proposal. The next one is Hatcher Point Road, which is outside the proposal, and then way at the far right is Blount Road. This is just some information on each of these crossings. Hatcher Point isn't part of it, so it's grayed out, but you've got the US DOT number in the left column, which identifies the crossing. The road names that we're looking at in this would be Fleetwood. We're calling it Fleetwood Crossover because it doesn't really have a name, but it's at Fleetwood Homes on Knight Avenue. Driggers Lane, which is the next crossing going east, and then Woodard Chapel Road, which is a little crossover crossing near, I hope I pronounce this right, Aycock Road? Aycock Road. So it's almost lined up with Aycock Road, but not quite. Got the route numbers, the railroad mileposts, the distance between the crossings. We did traffic counts in 2021. That's in that column. That being a pandemic year, those numbers may be a little bit low. In other words, if we did a count today, it could be a little bit higher. School buses in the other column, that's a very important consideration for GDOT in prioritizing crossings for installation of gates. And then the last column is adjusted hazard index. That's a number that GDOT uses to help prioritize which crossings should be improved. The main inputs to it are train traffic, highway traffic, the type of warning devices that are there, school bus use, and crash experience. And typically, a crash experience, AHI of 5 or more is a high priority crossing to do something about. And you can see that Blount Road has a AHI of almost 6. That's because of the recent crashes there. There have been 3 crashes this year. I'm going to start at the bottom of this slide, actually. Again, we look at block crossings and crashes every month. There was a crash at Blount Road early in 2023. So there's already a project been programmed. CSX has already done the design. Sometime here in the next calendar year, construction will begin to install gates at that crossing. So Blount Road will have gates at it. So what we're looking at are the 3 crossings in between. The crossover at Fleetwood, Driggers Lane, and Woodard Chapel. And what GDOT is proposing is to close those 3 crossings and build a new crossing that would be an extension of Tomberlin Road from Knight Avenue across to Brunswick Highway. So that may be a little bit better map to help you understand which crossings we're talking about. At the left is City Boulevard. It's a green dot because it's got gates. At the far right is Blount Road. It's a green dot. It doesn't have gates, but it will have gates. So we're looking at the crossings in between. The 3 existing crossings are yellow dots on this map. So the Fleetwood crossover, which is just about 600 feet away from Hatcher Point Road, Driggers Lane, and Woodard Chapel. So what GDOT is proposing is those 3 crossings be closed, and then a new well, I shouldn't say and then, First, a new crossing would be constructed to extend Tomberlin Road across the railroad to Brunswick Highway. From our perspective, that makes for a much better road network in terms of residents and people that reside up off of Central Avenue or in East Waycross having a much more direct route to Brunswick Highway and to the commercial district around Walmart and the mall. This is just a crude, I wouldn't even call it a concept, but it's just showing a crossing that's extending across at Tomberlin Road. There's not been really any engineering done. It would very likely be a crossing with 2 lanes southbound so that somebody could turn right if traffic was waiting to turn left and go east towards Brunswick. There'd likely be a deceleration lane for westbound Brunswick Highway, so that lane would serve a dual purpose of allowing traffic to slow down, but also when the crossing's blocked, that traffic would not be hanging out into 520. There's a possibility even that the intersection at 520 could warrant signalization. Kind of the next steps, if the county would want to go ahead with it, I anticipate you would have another hearing at a later date, perhaps, and consider it. Maybe it takes a couple commission meetings to come to a decision on that. But once the county, if the county decides that it wants to proceed with this, they would enact a resolution in support of it. And once GDOT has that resolution, they would begin the process of doing the project. They program it and go through a concept development stage. That would be a time also where there's additional public input into the whole process in addition to what happens between now and approval. After a concept's developed, GDOT engages with CSX to do its engineering for the crossing signals and review of the crossing surface elements. Once that stuff's approved, we go on to final plans, a right-of-way easement acquisition from CSX across the railroad. Then after that, the project would let and go to construction. I've put a six-month period on that. That's just a guess at this point in time. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit sooner than that. This is one way to contact GDOT about crossings, any crossing, not just this project. If you have concerns about a crossing somewhere, this would be one way to use it. That top right part is just a photo of the GDOT homepage. If you would Google GDOT or GDOT homepage, there's a little contact button, which is what the top arrow is pointing to. If you click that, on the left side of the screen, how can we help you? There's a little button to push let's connect, and then a menu drops out, and that's what the third arrow is. There's something to do with, I can't read it very well at this scale, about railroad crossings, and you can give input on it. Again, not just for this project, for any project. And now we're ready for questions from anyone.
Dave.
Yes, sir.
I was going to mention, if anyone wants copies of the presentation, I'll have those. I can make copies, so if anyone wants them.
Yes.
At what point would you, if everything has been approved, at what point would the roads be closed, the crossing be closed versus when the other crossing at Cumberland would be open?
None of them would be closed until Cumberland is completed and open to public. Sir?
What would you, when you do the crossing at Cumberland, because you have traffic east-west on 520, why would you not make a 3-lane instead of a 2-lane, so you have a little cross lane to get into the eastbound lane, or you could have a turn lane, cut back in the way across, or you not put 3 lanes there instead of 2.
No, that, I thought maybe I didn't do a good job of communicating that. Are you talking on Cumberland, making it 3 lanes?
I understood 2, so that's.
Okay, yeah, no, that was, again, a very simple concept. My expectation would be there would be 3 lanes, just for the purpose of the fact that there's probably a lot of right turns. And if you had 2 lanes southbound, if somebody's waiting on traffic on Brunswick Highway to make a left turn, the right turn could continue on. Sir?
My suggestion would be to also, other than the 3 lanes going across the railroad track where you can turn, would be to stop sign Knight Avenue like it's done at Metro Point Road.
Oh, yes. That type of determination would be part of the concept development, but one way would be maybe, as you're suggesting, stop signs on Knight Avenue only, and Cumberland Road flows freely. Another possibility would be a 3-way stop, southbound Cumberland, Knight Avenue, but allowing traffic coming across the crossing to have right-of-way. That way they wouldn't be likely to be stopped on the track waiting to make a left because of oncoming traffic. But I guess to answer that question, that's part of the process, the development process.
Okay?
Sir?
Yes, sir. Chairman, I've got several, so I'd like to just start here. First of all, DOT, how much has the traffic increased on Knight, Cumberland, 520 in the last 5? What's your 5-year project increase projections in that same with this railroad crossing? The render drawings that you submitted didn't really give us much to see the traffic flow. But also with the northbound train being blocked, eastbound being blocked, could DOT give us the backup of traffic for a 911 emergency response? I've got a list of questions I'd like to see.
Yeah, no, sure.
I think some of these questions need to be addressed and answered. Also, by just putting a blockage on Tomberlin and the increase in Tomberlin, and what we've seen by living on Tomberlin, Knight Avenue, a train blocking the eastbound lane, you're not going to have access to exit to 520. And with the traffic count, yes, you're going to need signals on 520, both at Blunt and probably Tomberlin, or take the whole Tomberlin overpass, let's get traffic over, or reroute back through southbound lane off of Jacksonville, come back into your new track down in Nahunta and Junction Point and utilize that. One of the questions as citizens in Ware County we ask with these trains blocking, revenue sources for fining or ticketing or making these trains move. How much as a county, what's our benefit? Because we're being, having to change our lifestyle with a blocked train, whether it be all the way around 520 from east to west Jamestown. It's not convenient. We understand there's growth. We're not saying we don't want growth. We want growth in Ware County. We want something positive, but be positive in how you're doing it. This is not, just to block those crossings, because in an event that's at the fair, even if the Exchange Club has a fair, with what blockings you want to take away, there is no way to move that track down Knight Avenue, Tomberlin, or wherever. With the schools, you had 2 school bus crossings, 4 school bus crossings going on the thing. There's 2 daycare centers. There's multiple child facilities there. That's afternoon programs with PACs and then around Knight Avenue Circle. There is a lot more numbers than that on that report. And how are we going to manage those kids safely? By putting just a woman and her kids, or a parent, or a guardian, or a grandmother, you just come off that New Tomlin Road, don't worry about ain't no traffic signal, pull out on 520 with a semi coming out of Brunswick at 80 miles an hour. Yes, there can be some things there, but let's do it correctly. I say, I have questions, I'd like to submit them to the board, to Mr. Chairman. Let everybody look at them, let's have some answers. Come back with some numbers, some projections. Show us what that's gonna look like when those lines are shut down, or a train's blocking northbound Jamestown, eastbound from Stadium out. What is on the backside of Central and Jamestown and the areas? How does that traffic look from a DOT standpoint? Those are the things we need to know, and how do you project to move that traffic? Because the trains has got to move, we understand that. Most people make their living here, but here's the thing. Other people work here also. We live here, and we've got to be able to move. We can't sit 30, 40 minutes for a train that ain't moving. Or trying to get people in and out onto, not without a decent lane coming off of 520, 9th Avenue backed up Tomlin all the way down. Stop sign ain't gonna help it. I mean, I don't think I've seen any recent DOT count markers going across 9th Avenue or Tomlin Road. I don't know if there's been one done, or I haven't called to see what the recent ones are, or what year it was done, or the count. But I would like to submit the questions. Let's go through them. Maybe get more of an accurate game plan and sit down, because I just don't think what you're looking to do right now is the right way.
One quick question for you, and it's, I think you can answer it well, because if you live on Cumberland Road, is the Driggers Lane crossing, does that get blocked by stop trains with any regularity?
Yeah, all your trains right now, during the
Okay.
pandemic recently, that eastbound lane hasn't been used. They just started using it because of what's coming in out.
So,
back
the
Pierce
eastbound
County.
lane is what you're talking about going down to Nahana, is that,
Right.
okay, that way I
But
understand
I mean,
what
you
you're
know,
talking about.
if that train is sitting there, if you're talking about a time-sensitive situation, that train sitting there is no different than rerouting it down US 1 and coming back through 301 to the junction point down in Nahana and reroute as well. I mean, there's other things to be done. I'm not saying to push everybody out of time, but that's just not feasible. And I don't know when those numbers were taken. But
The ones that are up here were a 2 count in 2021. So like the Fleetwood crossover, 1,670 vehicles. Driggers Lane was 943. Woodard Chapel Road was 610. And Blount was 1,573. And again, as I mentioned, that was a pandemic year. And plus the economy's growing a little bit. So those numbers I would expect to be
10
higher.
years from now, if I'm still living there and I'm trying to get my kids to high school, how am I going to do it? So,
Part of the concept development is to look out 25 or 30 years in terms of projecting traffic.
but I would like to submit these questions. There's 18, so and let's get some answers. You know, that we're not seeing in this report.
No, this is just a kickoff, if you will.
We understand. But I was expecting to see, because the DOT's gotten this far, either they got some drawing renditions around the room that you can kind of go from. You know,
That would be the continuing, a next step, if you will, like a public information open house. Bring it on up.
Send them to the board or somebody.
Okay.
I'll take them, Kurt. Yes, sir.
Please, I'm sure
That
you'll
way it
share them
could
with
get
us.
passed
will.
back out, get shared and all.
Yep.
Because I worked on some of the DOT projects in Charleston, and usually they had some renditions that we really regularly send to TV. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Since you're planning on doing a 25-year fix, plan for 25 years, why not go ahead and build an overpass and be through with it?
It's probably not cost effective. Generally speaking, you're looking at 10,000 vehicles a day or more for an overpass, because you're looking at roughly probably a $20 million expenditure.
Well, you add up all of these vehicle traffic for all these crossings, you'll probably have 10,000, wouldn't you?
I don't know. Right now, it's less than 5,000. And that's if everybody chooses to use the overpass.
If we ask for an overpass, though, do you think DOT, railroad, and Ware County go together, build it third, finance it? We need a crossing, we don't need no stop sign. I mean, we need an overpass. A railroad man told me and the manager 2 years ago, wasn't it, that we needed to build overpasses. We none don't want to stop at a train all the time. And it looks like y'all gonna increase that train business out there, which is good. We for that. But we'd like to ask for a railroad crossing somehow. If we could get grants or something to build overpass.
Can share that. The actual program that Edlin works on is only $9 million a year statewide, so other elements in GDOT would have to get behind an overpass.
Okay. How many, we should have done it.
Sorry. No, that's okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
My thing is, I think we need to do some updated numbers. My business is right there at the Woodard Crossing, crossover. I see how many vehicles go across there. You have a school right down the road at Triggers Lane that constantly, anytime I leave, there are vehicles going across there. On Cumberland, you also have a daycare. You need to redo those numbers before you even start going any further, because the numbers from 2021 and the numbers I see daily are not the same. There's a lot more traffic running across there, and that's going to create a bottleneck at Cumberland trying to go across there. And you're going to have wrecks. You're going to have lots of accidents right there, people not paying attention, in a hurry trying to get, like I say, you've got, Southside has a school along with the daycare, Cumberland has a daycare, and the traffic is nonstop. So before you go any further, I think you need to run new numbers across there.
Okay. There'll certainly be a complete traffic study as part of the project. These were just individual 2 counts at the crossing, so they don't take into account really where, for instance, vehicles coming south on Cumberland, are they cutting back to Driggers Lane, or are they turning and going down to Fleetwood? That kind of information is not in here, but that would be studied as part of the project development. I'm going to go, oh, yes, sir. Well, I'm going to go with you. He already asked one. He'll be right after you.
I've only been in this county for 5 years, but I've noticed that the only way we can get out, if they're doing anything at the fairgrounds, is Fleetwood. You can't get out any other way. They close it off. Cars coming in, you can't make a left. Cars coming right, Walmart, you can't make a left. You're stuck, and it keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. This last time we had something at fairgrounds, they closed off the Timberland completely. That made it impossible. I stayed almost between 15 and 20 minutes just to make a left-hand turn to go to Walmart. What you're proposing is closing these and opening up another if you can get across the boulevard safely. If you're going to do that, you need to put at Cumberland, you need to put a traffic light all the way across. Block all the ways, no tractor trailers killing anybody, nobody getting hurt. That would be the only way. I think that would be feasible. Otherwise, you're talking about fixing something that's not broken.
Okay, so you're saying signals on both intersections, Knight and Brunswick Highway? If I understand you, you're suggesting there should be signals at Knight Avenue in Cumberland and Brunswick Highway in
Correct.
Cumberland.
I
Okay.
think that's the only way you're going to get away with it.
Yeah, I see that.
You're going to have deaths all over the place. These tractor trailers come through like crazy. You
Okay.
can't get across now with just a little bit. You start compiling all these other closings for one small bottleneck, and you're going to have a lot of deaths on that.
Okay.
My question was, is if you're going Knight Avenue, into town from Cumberland, a lot of times you get down there and you try to make a left to get across to Hatchcock Road, and sometimes traffic's heavy enough that you sit there for a while. Sometimes longer than the regular traffic light. You go through.
At which crossing you're saying?
There, at Fort Mall and Fairgrounds, you turn to the left.
Oh, okay, so trying to make the left and get across is difficult. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
To sort of piggyback off him, when it comes to the intersection at Tomerland, my question is, what's going to be done when there's a train? Because, let's face it, those trains just like to sit and block crossings. If there's a train going into town and it is stopped, and like I live on Driggers Lane, trying to get home, and that intersection at Tomerland is going to back up, and it's going to be stopped. There's no way for people who live past Tomerland, with it still being just the 2 lanes, to get around that traffic and get home. We'd essentially be stuck if you're closing off the crossing at Clayton Homes, and then you're closing the one at Driggers, and you're closing the one down by Whitaker's Golf. You're gonna, like he said, you're gonna bottleneck people down there, and then you're also kind of cutting off for the mobile homes that get moved out of Clayton. They're all more than likely going to be coming down that avenue to the Tomerland crossing. And I can just see the kind of disaster that that's going to end up being, them trying to cross those mobile homes, even in pieces. But is there going to be any allotment for helping people get home around that traffic that's going to be backed up inevitably when the trains are stopped for hours at a time?
I'm not sure how, in this case, it wouldn't be that much different than, instead, you'd have Cumberland block, let's say, which may happen, but when it's blocked, the other 3 crossing, 2 of the other 3 crossings are blocked as well. I mean, Fleetwood would be, or Clayton Homes, I'm glad you're correcting me on that. Clayton Homes crossing and Driggers Lane would be blocked at the same time.
Because, I mean, if we're being realistic, the Driggers crossing, the Whitakers and the Blunt, those are used as racetracks right now without a crossing guard so people can get down and get around the trains. And I mean, if you're taking those out to where people can't get around, even if Clayton doesn't have a crossing right now, you can kind of scoot around and get ahead of the train to get over where you need to be. But you're bottlenecking everybody down to one congested intersection with no, a 2 lane. If you've got 4 lanes where we can get around traffic and get to where we're going, would be better than just leaving Night Avenue the double lane that it is now.
Okay, well, certainly, I like the idea you're suggesting even, I talked about maybe 3 lanes, but if traffic warrants, it could be 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction at Cumberland. Yes?
Who's it gonna benefit and how is it gonna benefit the citizens of Ware County, CSX, and GDOT? How and who is it gonna benefit the most?
The primary benefit would be the safety of the citizens at railway crossing. I make an estimate that this proposal would reduce crash risk by about 95% at those 3 crossings.
My next question would be, when's the last time GDOT has went down to this specific area that we're talking about right now and actually looked at just how many businesses were there? Just like they're talking about, I mean, we're talking about K through 12 school and a daycare at Southside. You're talking about elementary school that's also a daycare over on Tomberlin. I mean, there's a whole neighborhood off of Tomberlin. You got apartments over there. You've got newly built homes over there. I mean, there's thousands of people that live on the diagram that you just showed. I mean, thousands. So my question is, closing those 3, how's it going to benefit the citizens of Ware County? How's it going to benefit GDOT or the railroad? Who's going to benefit the most here? If we're saying citizens.
The primary purpose is reducing crossing crashes and crash risk. The crossings were last looked at in 2020 or 2021. The type of periodic examination does not go into a lot of detail on businesses in the area. That would certainly be part of the concept development process.
They really need to go down there and look just how many thriving businesses there are down there. And also need to get with the business owners, like Mr. Whitaker and a couple others here, and talk to them, because their businesses are gonna be affected by this.
I would expect that the public engagement process would very much involve businesses along Knight Avenue.
I've got one for you. If you're coming east on 520, approach Cumberland Road, are they gonna have a decel lane where you can get off the highway to exit 520 onto Cumberland Road, instead of just pulling straight off of 520 and keep getting rear-ended by somebody heading east? Heading west.
East, there's a center turn lane.
I'm talking about heading west.
Yeah,
heading
no, there
west.
would likely be a deceleration lane. We would want the deceleration lane there as much for, traffic slowing and getting out of the way, but when the crossing is blocked by a moving train, let's say, where if somebody's not gonna try to find a whole different route, but if the train's moving, so the crossing might be blocked for 4 or 5 minutes, that lane would have enough space in it to take a stack of cars where they aren't hanging out on 520.
Because if you did, you'd have the same problem
Is what?
if you didn't do that, you'd
Oh,
have
yeah.
the same problem at Harrison and, Memorial Drive. If you got crossing with red lights going the other way, you got cars backed up trying to turn right.
What, at City Boulevard?
No, at Harrison.
right by the-
Harrison, well,
okay,
Harrison
that's
and
one
City
down. Yeah.
Boulevard, both of them.
Well, I took a quick drive-by on the way here and saw that what was happening at City Boulevard, traffic was backing up, wanting to turn right. And in that case, the railroad's so close to the highway that you can't put in a
Right.
lane. But I guess to answer your question, I would expect that there would be a deceleration lane that would have a good amount of storage space.
On the other side, as you enter and going east on it,
You'd have to turn.
you have an egress lane too. Is there room for it, for maybe 300 feet or something? But a lot of times there's so much traffic there, you got to wait on one another, It's egress, another lane on the other side too, to enter.
I think there'd be 2 lanes.
Probably.
Yeah,
Both of
2 lanes southbound, so you'd
That
you
could
have a
be,
right turn lane, you could turn right on red if there's a signal.
Egress and decelerate. Okay.
I make a recommendation.
Yes.
The intersection at US 1 and Wakeona, GDOT might need to go look at it. There's not the magnitude of businesses at that intersection that there is at these intersections we're talking about now, and go look at how it bottlenecks. And they do,
Flashing light there, I think?
yes, only a flashing light. And that gets bottlenecked tremendously on both sides of the tracks. And I'll say again, there's not the volume of businesses. There's only one elementary school there. The other one's on the other side. It's on the west side of town there. But the volume of businesses and the volume of traffic is gonna be worse in the area you're talking right now.
Okay, we'll certainly share with GDOT. I guess, are you suggesting that GDOT should look at a signal at Wakeona?
I've asked for a signal several
Okay.
times.
We'll convey that.
But still, I'll reiterate the fact that there's not the volume of businesses or the volume of traffic there that there is here. Because when I used to police down there in that area. And I can't tell you, I would gander at any Monday through Friday, and y'all help me out here, those of y'all that know, there's anywhere between 5,000 and 7,000 kids in that area during the work week when school's open. And plus, they talked about the Brown family that's got the gymnastics location there. There's many businesses there. Not just on Knight Avenue, but other roads that offset it.
The karate place has a daycare also.
Yep, karate place has got a daycare. I mean, I'm telling you, there's between 5,000 and 7,000 kids, not to mention the parents that go along with it.
At the intersection of Knight Avenue and Tomberlin,
Which in,
at the intersection of Tomberlin and Knight Avenue, Brandon and I were looking at the map, and we can't see any kind of traffic control at that intersection. What's the concept, say, at Tomberlin? Would you just go straight on across and have stop signs on each side on Knight Avenue, or have you reached that concept yet?
no, a long way from, again, maybe I wasn't clear. We'd have to do a detailed traffic study. All we base this on is just the the use of the
The
crossing.
existing traffic.
And like you're suggesting, maybe it's just 2 stop signs for Knight Avenue, and Cumberland has right-of-way all the time. Maybe they're both signalized, like City Boulevard, in a way, 4 lanes, or maybe it's a 3-way stop.
Right.
The traffic analysis will dictate that.
Do you expect the county commission to approve this project and then you come up with the design? Or will you present at least a preliminary design so we can base our decision on what you plan to do? Because this is, this is just,
Surely, yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
Maybe we've
yeah.
got a huddle on how much traffic study we could do ahead of time to
Right.
get more detail,
Yeah, we
like everyone's
we
asking.
we can certainly go back and look at it and maybe go out and do some recent traffic counts.
yeah,
And then based on that, we can come up with something a little bit more,
a little
I
more
guess,
detail.
yeah, a little bit more detail we can share with you that, so, but we can certainly do that.
I would have to base my vote on that.
That's fine.
And also, you know, you keep talking about Tumbling Road, and if you open that up, went through, you definitely gonna have to probably look at signalizing back on Tumbling and maybe even on 520 out there. Cause like I said, when you come across there and you got this traffic coming into town, 18-wheelers and all, and like I say, you're looking at it from a safety aspect, so that's something I think to be considered.
Yeah, to feed Tomberlin across the railroad track and just open on the 520 with those trucks are 80 miles an hour, I can't see it. But maybe in the preliminary
Yeah,
design,
no,
all that'll be
we'll
addressed.
huddle
Right.
and, see and share with Mr. Moyne, what our next step would be.
Right.
I guess summarizing, I'm hearing there's a lot of concerns about the businesses, what this would do to the businesses on Knight Avenue.
We're actually the Clayton dealership, and right now, we have to move houses as quick as we can, not shut that road down any longer than what it does already.
Okay.
So, just closing that crossing, where we can just go straight across, you're gonna take a 3-minute blocking up the road, turn it into possibly an hour to get a house out, 80-foot long house with a truck and semi, and all that traffic has nowhere to go at that point, because we're gonna be in between the Hatchet Point and the terminal. So that road is gonna be shut down for however long it would take us to have machines that are gonna have to pick these houses up and make turns that are not typically made, because we can come straight across going in and out of that lot right now.
Okay. I'd like your business card if you have one. We've identified that is a consideration on that, so I'll get your business card after the meeting. I guess, okay, go ahead.
I have a question. What's the estimated cost to put up crossing guards compared to what it's gonna cost you to make this crossing across Cumberland, to put up signals on 520, to put up signals on Knight Avenue? The total cost of that compared to installing crossing guards on this existing crossing? What are you looking at numbers-wise on that? And how is it more economically beneficial to the county to put up this whole shindig you're doing here, crossing across Cumberland? You're gonna have red lights, you gotta have deceleration lanes. Or just put crossings up on these other 3 crossings, just put the guards up.
It would be more expensive to put 3 sets of crossing gates in, but not by a heck of a lot. There'd be a lot more safety benefit with 1 crossing versus 3.
I don't see the safety benefit of the traffic you're backing up by closing those. So I would like to see a price breakdown of what it costs you to do each crossing and what it's gonna cost you to do this full package of putting the crossing, the deceleration lanes, the signal lights, and then compensating for the backup and the extra traffic and the accidents you're gonna have, the problems you're causing with the bottlenecking before anybody makes any decisions. You can see it with the numbers too, financially.
I just want to point out too, when we look at that area of town, it needs to be made to make sure on the traffic thing, it's not just Ware County, because the western part of Brantley, a lot of people that work over here live there, and so they're constantly feeding, coming over here shopping and all, but that's just not the traffic concern built up, be a lot would just got people speeding in all over, so I think it needs to be really looked at.
Yes, sir.
The thing that I have questions about is talking about a 10 or 20 or 25-year projection of traffic. You're talking about a growing area which includes West Brandon, East Ware, and you're going to block everything from Milesville Road. Basically, if you have a mile on the train, you'll block everything from Milesville Road, slap into the asphalt mall. How are you gonna get across unless you, if you're coming into town, you need to cross over like Whitakers and stuff? How are you gonna get across without going to slap into the Scrivener Avenue underpass? What about the other pass? Some of the other questions like maybe leaving the crossings there and putting gates up like the Winter Convention, and leaving the crossings in without closing. So you got some options. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Any other comments?
I would like to add that maybe the commission, we would have, Mr. Daniel Jonathan, with our emergency management, talk about how it may affect 911 getting ambulances on the north side, east side, everywhere in Ware County with these two tracks, if they're wrong at the time, Wakeholma being, you know, the one talking about Jamestown. I think Mr. Daniels needs to come in and be a part of this and say, because you have the software to analyze a backup, but we also need to know what would be our strategic plan for Ware County for 911 if those train tracks are blocked. And I don't think we have that.
And we don't have that right now.
So our family's gonna suffer for not being able to get 911.
Kurt, I think what this is a hearing, they want to propose what they want to do first. And let's look at what they got. And we're gonna have some more meetings on this thing before we agree to it. And we're gonna consider a lot of that. Like what you saying and,
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to approach you.
come on up.
Y'all all, I look across the board, y'all all have business in Ware County. A lot of us others have had them as well. To come to a meeting, and I say this in a very polite way, to be this unprepared is something you do on a continuous basis. Come on, we've got to be prepared and have this stuff ready. It's already affecting Ware County from this same situation of railroad crossing being blocked. If we're gonna do this again and block more, we've gotta work together. There ain't no working together right now, this is a one-sided ball field. And we should have some things and numbers and some renditions, even if they wasn't correct, to show that little one with just 2 lanes, that's not gonna work. Okay, you know, we've talked about overpass, we've talked about taking off of Tomlin, taking Spire's old land, Mr. Blunt's old land, give you the additional space to put that overpass to get up everybody, have a 911 access point. But when we block the northbound, you block that eastbound, emergency management, you ain't gonna have a 911 getting nowhere. And I just say that we've got to address it now. We've been living with it, we've been having to deal with it. People can't get the ambulance to their family when they need it. Come on out in the morning time, ride with the commissioners, get in the car at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm up at 3 if you wanna go at 3. We'll go sit at those trains when people's trying to go to work. Bring you a camera, bring you a cup of coffee, because you're gonna sit there. Then, let's put a plan together. I understand they gotta make money, we all gotta make money, but this right now that we got going on, it ain't working. And to come with this numbers and won't just to have a public hearing. We're having a public hearing, we're trying to say we've got a problem. It keeps getting shoveled under the rug, but we need to address it before we move forward. Because if you pull the 911 call or pull anything from Jonathan and them and find out, we cannot get the flow of traffic. Them school buses, where's Meadows and them? Where's our school bus problems when there's a train? How we gonna get them kids? You preaching safety. We've got a safety issue. We ain't addressed it. That's what I'm trying to say, along with the rest of these people. We've got a lot of money invested in this town. We got a lot of money invested in everybody. It don't matter if it's a penny, it's money. But we gotta fix the problem. And we ain't addressing it, because them numbers ain't right. Just like that Luke was saying, a lot more traffic out there. We see it every day, we live it every day, and we ain't getting no access to 911 to get those answers. So I just think we need to re-bring this thing back together and look at it. Put some scenarios, worst case, what if these tracks are blocked here, how much traffic is it gonna bottleneck over here? You got the software, you got the manpower, let's move it around. We know what the count's gonna be. You can do an overhead live shot. Y'all got capabilities, see what it looks like backed up. Look at it here, look at it there, see what we gotta do to fix it. And then I think, like you said, Commissioner, let's bring it back, let's look at it. But I think the ultimate goal is gonna be that overpass if you're gonna benefit somebody. Because not only safety, you look at city, you look at all your,
Mr. Kirk.
roads coming down, the lights.
I've just been told that 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll give you that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kurt.
We do appreciate y'all having input, but like he says, we're looking for something to help everybody, not just an individual, but one of these crossings being closed or nothing open. It would help a few individuals. We're looking at the whole situation for everybody in the county. We appreciate any input that to address a lot of different things other than just those particular closings.
And that's again the reason I go back to the question that I asked earlier. Who's this gonna benefit the most? Because these are the people right here that live in those areas, own businesses in those areas.
It's a matter of safety. And gates do help, but they don't reduce.
Definitely don't stop it.
Pardon?
I said they definitely don't stop it.
No, exactly.
I've got one thing I wanna add. The city and the county has invested $25 million for overpasses. You know, we appreciate the state of Georgia helping us with US 1 out there. I mean, the county put $5 million in, the city put $5 million in. And then one on Albany Avenue, what, $10, $12 million we gonna spend on it. That's what we need, overpasses in this town to get the traffic from one place to the other, train blocks.
And that would definitely help the safety. That's a win-win for everybody.
So that's definitely what us going back and take a look at it a little bit more in depth. And then we can come back and, and share with you guys. I think that's probably gonna be the next thing to do is to look at this a little bit more in depth and come back and share with you guys.
Are y'all aware that a few years ago, there was going to be an east side bypass in Waycross, and there was going to be an overpass right there just east of the, Driggers crossing,
Just east of which crossing?
Driggers Lane.
Triggers Lane? I'm not familiar with that.
They was going to build an east side bypass, and there was going to be an overpass over all of that stuff you're talking about. But they, city and county decided we didn't need that bypass, so they just killed the project.
How long ago was that?
8 years ago.
8 years?
8 years ago, they just
tried to
turned it
dredge up
down.
and see what it was.
Because if you had an overpass, you say you don't have the numbers to warrant building an overpass. If you had an overpass, a lot of those people at the City Boulevard
fighting all that traffic in that area. And,
A bypass would have a lot more traffic than the amounts that we're looking at here.
because all these people coming from Blackshear, who wait across the shop or go to the doctor or eat or whatever, they clog up, right there at our stadium, Harrison Street, and the city boulevard. They clogged that up terribly. If they went ahead with that bypass, it would have got rid of a lot of that traffic out of there. And I think a lot of those people would choose to go down Central Avenue, across Common, and then over and overpass, or something like that, instead of fighting all those intersections, because they're terrible.
And you all are understanding what they're saying when it comes to the bottlenecking and just how bad. You're talking about the east end of Waycross, Ware County, the west end of Brantley, from that area, all the way down to Scriven, which is right there at Plant Avenue crossing, and that's where the underpass is. Because some of these trains come out of that rice yard, and they sit out there, and they're 2-3+ miles long. And if you put one of those trains on that track that's still in the rice yard, and it's actually close to Whitehall Church Road, that whole side of town is bottlenecked.
Yeah.
The only outlet they'll have is keep going east, through as deep into Brantley County as you can get, and they say, well, you got Central Avenue you can go to. Well, then you go down there and get bottlenecked up in that middle school traffic.
If you remember, I shared that crossing reporter, block crossing, and mentioned that we check it about monthly. The crossings along Plant Avenue are high up on the list in terms of people making complaints.
Yeah.
Or indicating that the crossing's blocked.
On that overpass, if you do Tomlin, I don't know if we explained it like we wanted to, but what we wanted to do is go over that and go on to US 1 through there.
Yeah.
Tie it into US
Tie
1.
all the way in.
And then if they go into the mall, they can go over US 1, and it stops all that other traffic. It helps 100%. I mean, I believe it would be. It's come all the way to US 1. So that's what we would like to do.
Yes, sir.
One more question. When did the railroad start running more trains on that east line? If I understand it right, it's been within the last year, maybe 2 years.
Todd, I'll let you answer.
How long have they had the train
That-
now?
On the
He's
Brunswick,
asking about
On the
increased
Brunswick,
on
trains
the Brunswick side of it,
on-
yeah, we've put a new connection track in at the Hunter,
Right.
and it's starting to increase the train traffic on the Brunswick subdivision, so, yeah, just because the volume of traffic we're having right now, and the increase of train traffic, that is necessary to do that.
The 3 regs or whatever y'all was talking about a while ago, I'm gonna say probably the main reason those 3 regs happened is because they had just started using the track. And these 3 crossings that y'all are trying to close, I don't remember any of the regs happening at those 3 crossings. It's been at the other crossings.
The regs have been Blunt Road.
Yeah. Blunt Road, Milesville Road. I don't know where the other is.
We're gonna signal out Blunt Road, hopefully, in the next year. We'll have crossing signals and gates and everything installed there shortly.
But the other thing is, when y'all start running those trains, like they run into the rice yard, it's 2 miles long, or you've got a middle engine, and they're so long, and they stretch from way across past the old Forest Furniture intersection, they block that whole train track. You couldn't get across until they move that train going into the right. What kind of train traffic is going to be on the Brunswick Highway 520 leg? How long are those trains going to be coming in or going out to keep those crossings blocked? And the other thing is, if y'all are looking at the amount of calls of blocked crossings on that line, it's because trains have not been going or stopping on that line until the last, say, 2 years.
Yeah, we have installed
centralized dispatching control of the trains on the Brunswick side, which we didn't have before. So we're able to control, the dispatchers will be able, yeah. So that's, hopefully, the dispatcher has control of them occupying a certain section of track or getting too far into town. He'll have a stop signal out there for the train to keep them out of town now, where we didn't have that before. So hopefully we'll see an improvement on that with the increased train volume, and we're also looking at putting some additional sidings in on the Brunswick side as well.
Well, that's part of the reason why I think these guys are talking about overpass, so we could have a relief area to get across that track in case 10 years from now, you know,
Right.
you're gonna have a real bad problem 10 years from now when the public is moving more, you're gonna have more population, you're gonna have more trains, and I understand that, that's problems.
Well, definitely CSX supports grade separations, so we'll.
Out of curiosity, just how many trains are coming through right across the day?
I really don't know.
Oh, you don't?
No, I'm not with the train traffic count person. I'm the public projects. I got 3 states. I'm not focused just on Waycross. I know it's around 30 at least. So yes, at least that many, right?
There's a plethora of trains coming through Waycross, I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that number approximately.
Yeah.
And the grade separations are needed in multiple places in Waco, by virtue of the fact that you've got so many trains coming in, and the way we stop, I wait in a particular place off the Blackshear Highway, very regularly, 20 to 30 minutes. And then when you do cross it, then there's a big old light sitting down there, there's another one right behind it. So, I mean, we need grade separations all over the place.
What crossing do you sit at?
Riverside, Morningside.
Okay, Morningside's one of the ones that is, on that block crossing, list.
And it goes, I've seen it, it blocks that crossing and you stop just before Carter Z downtown. Overpass. We've got everything, and the only way you can get past that is Ava Street. And if you turn off the Morningside and try to go through Cherokee Heights to Ava Street, you'll have to get on Ava Street on City, not Satilla, because you can't get on down there at the track. I mean, the traffic is so bad.
I think the last number I got was 2019, it was like 118 trains per day. The rice yard processed 992 cars in 1 year, I think, 992,000 cars in 1 year. In 2018 or 19, I can't remember. And there's roughly 96 crossings in Ware County, if I'm not mistaken. And that was from 2018, 2019.
And it's reasonable to assume, obviously, the trains are longer and they're more up.
Any other comments or questions? We're gonna take the feedback that we've gotten on it and I guess develop huddle and come up with a decision on what we might need to do to pursue it and develop more of a concept.
Good. That's good.
All right.
Any more? Everybody,
Just keep the public informed so we can go put our
Yeah.
2 cents worth in.
Yes, sir.
we'll do that. Okay. We do appreciate the railroad being here too. I want y'all to know that. I mean,
We're here to support
we
GDOT.
appreciate the railroad being here. And,
Definitely appreciate GDOT being here as well.
and,
We'll
But-
hang out for a little bit, because some people don't like to talk in
yeah,
an open environment and can answer questions or tell you whatever information we can convey.
okay. Yeah, before we do a resolution, then we'd ask y'all to let us have a, I think Jerry mentioned it a while ago, we need a,
Pretty close to a
something
complete.
that we can look at. Maybe a preliminary or something on what you propose to do before we ever bring it to a vote. And we'll look it over. There is-
There's one more crossing that I've been brought into the attention. The family that lives across railroad track just underneath the Minesville Road in Ware County. Has the railroad side, and Brady County has his home side. There's at least 3 or 4 families in there. They have no other way to get across railroad. And I think Georgia DOT is proposed to close that crossing as well. According to the man that lives in the home, he got a letter from somebody.
We aren't aware of that in the crossing safety group. It's a little dead-end road. You cross the railroad and makes a right turn, and there's a half dozen homes. I mean, we've looked at the crossing before, but we haven't considered doing anything with that.
I'm just making sure that,
Sure.
because they were present.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that might be something else. GDOT's a big organization. But from a crossing safety point, that hasn't been looked at for closure we wouldn't close any crossing without providing some kind of alternate access. And they don't have anywhere to go without that crossing.
Okay. Any more? If not, we want to thank y'all for coming. And appreciate.
Thank you for listening to the pitch.
Yeah.
We have 2 more, it sounds like.
We've all learned a little. Oh, yeah. I appreciate it. So, do we have any comments from the commission? Any of the commissioners got anything they want to comment on?
I don't have anything.
Don't have anything?
I'm good right now.
Okay. Manager, you got anything?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. If y'all don't have anything else, then we're gonna ask for a motion to
So
adjourn.
move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.